forward a little bit, we'll turn to page 27 and we'll recite Psalm 27 together. A Psalm of David. Adonai is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, it is they, my enemies, and those who besiege me, who stumble and fall. Should an armed camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. Should they war against me, of this I would be sure. One thing I ask of Adonai, this I seek, to dwell in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, to behold God's beauty and visit in God's sanctuary. Were God to hide me in God's sukkah on a calamitous day, were God to enfold me in the secret recesses of God's tent, I would be raised up in a protecting fort. Now I raise my head above the enemies that surround me, to come with offerings amidst trumpet blasts to God's tent, chanting and singing praise to Adonai. Adonai, hear my voice as I cry out. Be gracious to me and answer me. It is you of whom my heart said, seek my face. It is your presence that I seek, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not act angrily toward me. You have always been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, my God, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will gather me in. Show me your way, Adonai, and lead me on a straight path despite those arrayed against me. Do not hand me over to the grasp of those who besiege me, for false witnesses and those who seek ill have risen against me. If only I could trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Place your hope in Adonai. Be strong, take courage, and place your hope in Adonai. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai. Lachazot benoam benoam Adonai uvaker behechalo. Lachazot benoam benoam Adonai uvaker behechalo. Psalm 27, this psalm that we recite twice a day throughout the High Holy Day season, shifts back and forth between faith and doubt, between a God who helps me defeat my enemies and a God whom I seek but cannot find. I dread and fear no one. My enemies stumble and fall, and yet I ask God for mercy. I sacrifice in God's tent with shouts of joy, and yet I worry that God will hide from me or thrust me aside in anger. In the last couple of lines of the psalm, I remind myself that I am strong and brave, and yet I must tell myself not once but twice to hope in Adonai. If I could only believe with certainty that I will see God's goodness in my lifetime, one call for hope would be enough, but no, today I need two calls for confirmation. In this season of the High Holy Days, when we praise God's wonders and question our fate in the year to come, we want to hope in God, and still, we cannot avoid a twinge of doubt that our prayers and our actions these 10 days will influence God's will at all. Each person in this room has a different idea of the existence of God, and chances are each of our ideas about God's existence is different than it was yesterday, and it's different than it will be tomorrow. We are a tradition that welcomes questioning, even doubt, of our Creator and our Sustainer. And yet, every Jewish person is obligated to the same Torah, the same basic set of mitzvot, the same commandments, regardless of our beliefs or previous practice. In Judaism, action comes before faith. At Sinai, we proclaim na'aseh v'nishma. We will do, and then we'll listen. Yes, faith can be a motivator towards action. Why pray to and follow the orders of a being, an existence in whom we don't believe? But in the Jewish tradition, we often rely more on action as a motivator towards faith. Taking part in this congregation's continual celebrations of one another demonstrates proof of a living God. At the end of the day, there are a whole lot of Jews who choose to practice mitzvot for reasons that transcend or even sidestep faith, because it gives their lives purpose and order, or because such practice is what their ancestors would have wanted. Periods of time, even close to a lifetime of doubt about God's presence, can offer us insights into the wonders of God's commands and creations. Such doubt can help us more deeply question who and what we love in this physical world, what motivates us to do good and not so good. When we question God, we practice questioning ourselves in general. We give ourselves permission to reshape our worldview. If we can question the existence of God, God's self, then we can question our own political views, our theories of the world around us, and our opinions of people that we might have previously thought we could not accept. If our perception of God can be unstable, then our habits, our opinions, and our relationships can change too. When we come back to new faith in God, then, as we will explore tomorrow, that history of doubt will give us the language to better understand what we have missed, why we have returned. Our traditional liturgy builds questioning and doubt of God into its very structure. Every weekday, 3 times a day, sandwiched in between the praise and thanks we bestow upon God, we request a whole list of things from God. We ask for wisdom and understanding, repentance, forgiveness, redemption, healing, success, Jewish unity, justice, punishment of wrongdoers, praise of the righteous, the rebuilding of Jerusalem, the coming of the Messiah, the restoration of our holy temple, peace, and for God to accept this litany of requests once we've finished. 12 requests in total, 3 times a day. Why ask God for any of these things those multiple times a day, if not to express our frustration with a God who does not always do what we ask? When we challenge God, when we demand more from God, we acknowledge that our relationship with God must be a partnership. We channel Avram when he stands up to God and he proclaims, "Hashofet kol haaretz lo yaseh mishpat," will the judge of the earth not do justice? With our demands, we develop a vision for what justice and righteousness must look like in our world. With each demand, we remind ourselves of how we can help God in affecting the world in which we live. Through our efforts at comforting friends and family, and for many of us through our everyday occupations, we can be directly involved in the healing addressed by our daily requests to God. Through participation in Jewish organizations, we can be involved in the Jewish unity for which we beg. Through activism and community education, we develop the wisdom, understanding, and success in those around us, all topics intrinsic to our prayers to God. Remember that with our Isaiah project, we have empty bags to fill for the hungry, because we know that God probably will not rain food down from the sky for those in need. When we question or doubt whether God will complete the tasks we ask, we leave space for personal motivation. Just in case God cannot or will not do it alone, we have to step up. At certain times, halakha even dictates that we entirely ignore conversation with God. With the overwhelming joy of one's wedding night, one is not obligated to say the Shema, as the loving relationship of the couple supersedes even loving relationship with God. Right after a loved one has died, one is exempt from all positive commandments, as no mourner can be expected to think about the divine when dealing with both their personal grief and all of the arrangements that must take place in the aftermath of a death. In a house of mourning, no one present may say the words in the full Kaddish, Titkabel tzloton uva'oton, God, may you express the prayers and the requests of all the house of Israel. In a house in which people present may ask for their grief to subside or for their deceased to come back to life, we know that God will not grant our requests. Moments for pause in active relationship with God are built into our Jewish tradition. So too, moments of pause in our personal relationships with God may be helpful in developing that relationship further. When we are angry, frustrated at, or terrified of the divine, we can spend time in meditation rather than praise of God. We can take a week off of synagogue or even spend some time questioning God's existence entirely. And yet, a word of caution. If you choose to actively take a break from your relationship with God, stay involved with Jewish community throughout your process of doubt and questioning. Surround yourself with people who will eventually inspire you to come back, even if you choose to stay home from formal services. Ultimately, time spent focused on the God you do not believe in will help you better define the God you do believe in and know to be present in your world. For those who do not question or are not questioning God's presence, part of our role is welcoming back those who have lost that relationship and are slowly returning. When it's been a while since we've seen a member of our community, we ask about their well-being, we show our enthusiasm for their presence. We invite them to join our culture of volunteerism, but only to the extent that they feel ready. When we let go of any negative judgment towards those who are questioning or defiant, we help to establish the reputation and reality of a God who invites learning, challenge, and supportive community. For those of us who find ourselves somewhere in the middle, between steadfast faith and pause from our relationship with God, we have endless opportunities to look within our tradition and find the language to challenge God. If the text itself frustrates us, we can read the Parsha during the book of Leviticus or Vayikra and proclaim, "Sacrifices, yuck, why bother?" And we can engage in that discussion with our friends at the Kiddush table. If today's world order inspires anger or sadness or despair, we can channel the poet who yells at God in Psalm 94. "Shall the seed of injustice be your partner that frames mischief by statute?" That sense of God's absence does not end with Psalm 94, but rather exists all over the book of Psalms. I encourage you to flip through all 150 Tehillim and find the shade of distress that resonates you when you need to know that you're not alone. I guarantee that your feelings towards God and this world are reflected even in our holiest texts. Do not let your anger with or disbelief of God take you away from your Judaism. Regardless of your relationship with the divine, we are here with the resources of a supportive community. We will bring you soup when you are ill. We'll invite you to Israeli dancing when you feel better. We'll offer you space to knit, play mahjong, and enjoy fantastic meals. We are here with rituals and traditions that promote life in body, soul, and spirit far beyond the theological. Even if you need to take a break from the complexities of belief in God, God can patiently wait for your return. Throughout many of the lives of those in this room, we have experienced periods of time that are too painful, overwhelming, or chaotic to think about God with all of our hearts and souls at every moment of every day. Even through it all, by stepping into this room today, we are at least giving tshuva, the process of returning to God and ourselves, a chance. We have taken a leap of faith simply by engaging in this prayer service that liturgically throws every theology and every method of begging at God in hopes that at least one of them will stick. Today, we embrace the possibility that we may yet see God's goodness while we are alive, lirot betuv Adonai be'eretz chayim, acknowledging that we may still have hesitations about this whole God figure. So today, hayom, regardless of our personal theologies, we give God and ourselves the benefit of the doubt in the new year. Kaveh el Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha v'kaveh el Adonai, hope in Adonai. Be strong inside and let your heart be brave. Hope in Adonai. L'shana tova u'metuka.